stake out the estate.
Sounds good. Are you? I mean, I imagine that your family has some money. I don't know that they're like mega well. Well, maybe they are. Depends. I mean, if you're drawing inspiration from Batman for your dad and all that, maybe he was born with a boatload of money. You tell me.
Yeah, I mean, there's man, full on excessive billionaire money, but yeah, there's money.
Okay, so you probably have a decent car.
Yeah,
Okay. You froze up for a moment there, so I thought maybe we were gonna lose you, but
yeah, you did. Yeah, I don't know. I
ah,
noticed.
the internet. Um,
Yeah,
okay, so yeah, you've got a decent car. It's probably one that's relatively nondescript. It's not like
yeah, something inconspicuous. Yeah.
yeah, it's not a sports car, but it definitely is a car that will perform if you need it to. Um, okay, give me a. This is going to be a thievery. Well, thievery or espionage, depending on which, if you have either of those skills. Um, so,
Observation.
no, this is more for like obscuring your presence
Oh, okay,
and like your activities. Um,
that's fair.
so
Okay.
thievery. If you, hmm, hold on a second. This is things I
I
don't want to
don't have
rely on
every.
intellect too much. Espionage is an intellect skill.
Yeah, I have thievery and it's
Yeah,
agility.
but it's agility, so your score is gonna be lower. Hold on a second. Let me just check the book for like an official description of both skills to see if one would
Yeah.
be more appropriate than the other. Thievery, picking pockets, moving stealthily, opening locks of walls. Yeah, okay, this would be more espionage than thievery then.
Okay.
So you don't have that, but luckily your intellect is high enough to make up for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So that'll be an intellect action for you.
Yes, I'm trying to save that willpower card. So yeah, let's throw the 8 on it.
All right. Um, so yeah, you that's a total of a 19. You don't have the appropriate skill, but um, you know what? So I've got my own physical deck, and so whenever I am thinking that someone might be opposing what you're doing and whatnot, but we're not in active combat, I'll just draw a card from the
Mhm.
top of it, and I'll just use that to help me make a determination.
Sure.
Um, there are a few people kind of coming and going from the estate over the course of how long do you stake it out? Like, are you there overnight, just that evening?
Yeah, overnight.
Okay. Well, in that
Yeah.
case, during the day, like in the evening, you see a number of people kind of coming and going. Go ahead and draw a card to replace the one you just played, and you.
Oh boy.
Yeah, so you see a couple of people in. Um, it's somewhat advanced like body armor. Um, so not quite like Iron Man level. It's not like full body like metal or anything like that. But it's very clearly like some future semi futuristic like really cutting edge stuff. Um, and there's one lady kind of in a suit, um, and she goes in with a number of these guys in armor. Um, they're in there for a couple of hours. She leaves with like what is clearly like a couple stacks of like paperwork that she kind of gets back to her car, and she takes a second to kind of like go through everything and kind of make sure she has
Yeah.
everything, and then she drives off. But the
And the whole time I'm like taking pictures, trying to get the license plate.
okay.
Uh, and the armor. Does it have any identifying markers?
It does. So there is a Blockade Securities Limited, I believe is what it was called, and that is the private security firm that has kind of been
Mm,
like put forward as the front runner for the city, like if they were going to go that route versus the union.
yeah.
So
Okay.
these guys are fairly prominent. Like you've seen them on the news and everything. You're able to identify them pretty much immediately.
Oh,
And there are four of these, four of these guys in armor that kind of they escort the lady in, and she leaves without them. So presumably they were like,
it flipped and left.
yeah.
Okay. All right. Hmm.
If you stay overnight, then
Hmm.
okay. You are kind of watching the estate. Nothing, nothing much going on. You do see, every couple of hours, one of those guys in the armor will kind of come up to the gate, and kind of just do a quick scan, and then head back. Um, for whatever reason, they don't seem to have noticed you. You've picked a pretty good observational spot, so you feel like they haven't like clocked you as being there. Give me this time. I will ask you for an observation roll or an observation check.
Got it. Been saving it. Give me something good.
So that is a boost card. So playing and getting a 7. Okay. So that's going to
Making that
be
a
sorry.
17.
Yep, that's going to be a 17 um, for yeah. So 7 willpower plus 10 in card play is a 17, and you got the observation skill. So I will move these aside, and you can go ahead and draw a card to replace that. Um,
Jeez. All right.
ooh, that is a good card for you. Okay. Yeah. So you're keeping you're staying awake. Remaining alert. Um, and you're not quite sure what it is that like catches your attention, but around like 1 a.m. you you kind of see like just a flash of like this the light down at one end of the walls. There's just like a it's not even a flicker. There's just like a subtle shift in the quality of the light for like a half a second. But it's enough to like catch your attention, and you kind of keep a close eye on it, and you are positive that somebody just jumped over that fence or climbed over that fence.
All right. Well, guess it's time. And yeah, I'm gonna pop out of the car, pop to the trunk, and like lightning speed into costume.
Okay. That is one of the best uses of lightning speed. I don't want to be in my street clothes. I'm gonna real quick just. Okay.
Yeah.
Uh,
Wonder Woman sped.
yeah, exactly. Um, you don't need to make a check for that. That's not doesn't require an action.
Yeah.
Um, all right, so you're in costume. What do you do from there?
Yeah. I'm going to speed over to where I saw the person jump
Okay.
and post cog the wall.
Ah, interesting. Okay. So KJ has the post cognition power. which is basically going to allow him to touch objects and get a sense of like what has happened immediately to them or around them recently. And I think how far back you go is basically dependent on how well you do on the check.
Yeah, and I'm
Um,
trying to go like 2 minutes back. Shouldn't be too bad.
yeah, you can go ahead and give me. So that's going to be a post-cognition action, which is an intellect-based action for the purpose of, getting a boost. Um, it is like this is just printed directly in the book. That's probably that's an easy difficulty. You'll make this no matter what. So,
But we have to play a card.
um, you know what I think for this we'll probably say no, but
Okay,
if you want to see if you get any other useful information,
that's fair. Yeah, let's throw this on it. This should be plenty. Make it a 15.
15. Okay. Um, yeah, you know put one hand on the wall. You kind of concentrate for a second, and you see you get kind of a vision of um, someone who looks mostly human, but they have a sort of canine like slant to their features. They're not like a like full on dog faced person, but like there are certain elements that you're like, I don't know, something about that seems like they are like Wolfman light almost, if you want to put it in those terms. And they very nimbly kind of like it's almost like they put one hand up towards the top of the wall and they do a little hop and like they like climb over, kind of scramble the wall with like no effort. That is very quickly kind of superseded or a new vision kind of superimposes over that of you see an image of a masked kind of crime fighter, sort of in the vein of like your dad. It's not his costume or anything, but it's like it immediately makes you think of like someone of the
Cape and
same.
cowl.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly the same kind of like accoutrements and things like that. And the the vision is so this guy in this outfit, um, very casually kind of like looks up and down the street, hops over the wall, um, and this is you know based on the lighting in your vision, you're guessing it's sometime in the evening. Um, you do faintly hear like the sound of like splashing water and like people kind of laughing, um, and yeah. So those are the two visions you see. Is the one is this
Uh,
like
does postcog give me a sense of how long it's been since something happened?
yes, I believe it does, and that has been it's been a couple of days since that happened. It's a little bit more faint than the
Like approximately maybe 3 days ago.
yeah maybe about then.
Yeah. It's 3-ish days ago. Yeah, okay. Interesting. The Am I fast enough? Or well, I guess first question is how tall is the fence?
I mean, it's a good like 8 foot, 8 foot
8 foot.
wall. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm probably fast enough to like lightning speed over with
So
not too much trouble
that
because
is,
it's only 8 feet.
that is technically the purview of the wall running feat. or stunts.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
So you could probably make it over there if without the stunts. That would
Yeah.
be a we could do it either as a strength action to climb it, or if you want to use the wall running or like the lightning speed to try to like get a good jump, like a run up and then a jump, you could try that as well. That would I think that would be that one's going to have a higher difficulty,
Okay.
but you have a higher agility, so you know that might, and you've got the running skill, so that might help. Um,
Yeah. That's kind of what I was thinking. Is just like back up and get like running like because it's only with it only being 8 feet, just a quick run and like plant one foot, plant the like halfway up, and then just arm up like arm jump over.
sure, if you want to try that.
Yeah.
At that point, that's going to make it an agility action.
Okay. We'll throw the 4 on it, making it a 10.
At 10, and you've got running, so okay. It probably could have been a little bit smoother, um, but you manage it. Like you know, your lightning speed is still relatively nascent. Like you're still kind of just getting into it and kind of developing it. So you
Mm-hmm.
feel your foot kind of like slip a little bit on the wall, and so you have to kind of grab the edge and you know haul yourself up. Um, Luckily, you don't think you made enough noise that you've drawn any attention, but maybe you have.
Maybe that's why I'm in costume.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, um,
All right.
it's a pretty open grounds at this point. Like there's like you know a couple little like hedge, um, not figures. What am I thinking of? Like what are those shrubberies called when you form them to look like animals and stuff like that? They're just
Oh,
are they just hedge sculptures? We'll go with that.
I
Hedge
think so.
sculptures.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
I know what you mean. Yeah.
there are a few of those kind of like dotted around the yard. Um, it's very much like a 50s era idea of what like a wealthy person's yard would be. It seems like this place is stuck in the past a little,
Yeah.
but
Old money.
yep.
Okay.
Um,
I,
you
I
can see a
want.
couple of the guards that are like that are kind of like patrolling around near the front of the building. Like they kind of like they pass each other and they go to the corners and they kind of check down the sides and they come back and they do the same thing.
Okay. Ideally, without being spotted
Mm-hmm.
by the guards, I want to track Dog Boy.
Okay. So, ooh, that's going to be two actions. One for
Yep.
thievery to sneak, and the other one using willpower to track.
Yeah. Um.
So let's
Jeez.
do the thievery action first. I'll be nice since you've
Okay.
got the agility card. I'll let you resolve that first.
Yeah. Yeah. Then here we go.
This
And
is going to be opposed by them. Okay.
so 6,
Ooh.
12, 14.
Well, that's another agility card, so you actually get to play another
Oh,
card
right.
off the deck.
Hold for. Oh my God.
That's
Here we
another
go.
agility card.
What is happening right now? Hold. What? Why? Why? Okay. And it stops. Let's see. Let's figure. That's 2, 8, 9, 12, 20, 25, 31. And thievery is for stealth, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So 31, and I have thievery.
Okay, well, I'm not going to worry about. They definitely are
Um.
not going to see you with that
Yeah.
kind of a score.
Oops.
Yeah, they.
Sure.
You know, these guys seem like they're very diligent. They're precise. You just you're just better. You kind of stick to the hedge sculptures and during that one brief second where the guy closest to you is turning around to go back the other direction, and the other guy is still kind of looking down that's the other side of the building. You kind of dart out, use your lightning speed to kind of dash across the open space quickly, and you stick to the edge of the walls. You even like as you're kind of planning out your route, you even know like, oh wait, there's a camera there, there's a camera there. It makes sense that they would have a camera there that would be harder to spot, and so you kind of use that information to, time your lightning speed, perfectly so that you know, you're fast enough they can't really see you on the cameras, and then you're out of their field of view. Yeah,
Okay.
you very
And do I draw
effectively.
another, because I'm doing like two actions at once ish? Do I still draw another card before I do the tracking?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Give me. Oh, all right.
The deck likes you today. All right.
I mean, it feels probably unnecessary, but here we go. Okay, and it stops. All right.
Okay.
That's 11 plus 7 is 18 with tracking.
All right. Just making sure we're good there. Okay. So those will come over here, and you can. Wow. Okay. Getting really good cards.
I know. I'm gonna get into fight, and I'm gonna draw nothing but twos.
I've seen that happen. Yes. Um, one of the things I do like about the system is the fact that it kind of represents like sometimes a hero is just having a bad day. Like there are some of those like Daredevil comics in particular stick out in my mind as like sometimes things just do not go Murdoch's way, and it is
That's most days for him, I
well that's
think.
true, but some are particularly bad, and like those are cards where all you've really drawn are like ones and twos, and like you just can't seem to make anything happen despite your best efforts. So I kind of like that the fact that it kind of represents that. Anyways, so you are fairly easily able to kind of track like there's a couple little like scuffs in the grass, although this person is very light on their feet. um, you actually kind of follow the trail up to kind of a midway down the wall, and then you see very small um, like sharp um, something sharp like dug into the wall leading up.
Damn, of
The trail on the
course.
ground ends.
Of course. There's no. Is there any sound coming from inside?
You kind of take a moment to listen. You can't take too long because the guards are kind of doing the thing where they
Yeah.
go to the sides and they check. And
Making sure no one currently screaming or anything.
not that you hear at the moment. No.
Okay. How climbable is the wall for somebody who's not half dog?
Um, it would be tough.
Okay.
In theory, maybe you could do it, but it would be tough.
Okay. Is there a door close by?
So if you continue around to the back of the building, there's like, um, there's kind of a large patio area, and there's a glass door in the back of it. It's kind of like curved. It's very tastefully and elegantly done.
So the wall it climbed, is there like an open window that it would have probably gone in?
Um, from this angle, it's hard to tell, but you don't think so.
Okay.
But I mean, is it like it's a multi-storied house? So like maybe they went up to the third floor. Who knows?
Yeah. I'm not the most athletically inclined, so we're gonna go around to the door.
Okay.
I run. I don't climb.
That's fair. Um, you you kind of get to the door, um, just as someone walks like into the room from the far side, like from a doorway in the far side. Um, and your stealth score earlier was so good. I'm just gonna roll that
Yeah.
into this. So yeah, you're able to kind of duck out of view and everything, and you kind of like you're kind of listening in. Give me an observation, a willpower action to see how much you can hear and how much detail you pick up.
All right.
Wow. Okay.
Oh, geez. 17 plus 7,
So 24.
24
Yeah.
with observation.
Okay. Um.
Deck. Oh my god.
Wow. Okay. So you're able to hear pretty clearly um, the voice of and you definitely you've heard this guy before, especially because you were doing research earlier. You're probably like listened to a couple of his newscasts and stuff like that. You hear him saying talking, um, and he says I did exactly what you told me to do. I've fulfilled my end of this. You need to leave. And you hear a voice say like, "What's with the security, Brock? That wasn't part of our arrangement." He says there was no arrangement passed when you know, when you were supposed to come and get the stuff. And then if you didn't come and get it and someone else did, that's your problem, not mine. Of course, I'm going to hire security. Someone broke into my house and stole things. It's absurd to think that I wouldn't do so. And quite frankly, you're out of line coming here, especially now. Um, you know, the conversation is they're not like shouting, but from where you are, you can hear it pretty clearly. You get the feeling the guys out front probably wouldn't be able to, though.
Okay.
The other voice says, "Careful, Brock. I don't mind scratching up that pretty face of yours." What would you like to do?
If I carefully peek in the door, can I see them at all? Are they like in another room?
Okay.
I'm trying to get a look at Dog Boy.
So you kind of like slowly kind of like ease your head like to the side so you can kind of peek around the corner with one eye. And as you get a look at him, he's kind of facing towards Brock, so his back is to you. But all of a sudden he kind of stops and he kind of like tilts his head up and he sniffs the air and he turns and he looks right at the door. You have a moment to react if you would like to.
Yeah, uh, yeah. I will just step into view and like attempt to open the door and walk in. Probably locked, but
Okay.
okay.
No, the door's not locked. Door opens.
All right.
And Brock is
Mr.
like,
Kidman,
he's
you seem to be in
shocked.
some sort of criminal activity.
He's shocked that you have just like walked into his house. He has no idea who you are. Um, the the kind of dog-like guy kind of like he turns and kind of fully faces you, and you can see that he's very lean. Like he's almost kind of like gangly limbed, and he's got sharp claws. He's got some teeth that you can kind of clearly see as he sort of like grins at you in a way, and he he doesn't even really give Brock a chance to respond to what you said. He just says, "You're pretty good. Normally, I would have heard someone coming. Smell gave you away, though."
Well, some of us shower.
Cute. Well, I think.
You're welcome to surrender. I'm sure I can convince the police to go easy on you.
Oh, am I? Well, that's very generous of you. Brock is like backing up towards the door. You know, he's not
That
trying
was
to like.
directed at you also, Mr. Kentman.
He says, what are you talking about? I didn't do anything wrong. I'm being coerced by this lunatic.
Well, then turn him in. I'll
He says,
protect you.
gladly take him into custody. I don't care. At which point, the guy, we'll call him what he is. Coyote is his name. Coyote kind of like turns and kind of snarls at Brock. Um, at which point, Brock is going to turn and run for the door. Coyote is going to try to make like he's making a move to come at you because you're between him and the closest exit. And we're going to move into our first kind of fight. So you are going about your normal business when a particular news report kind of pops up. Like I imagine that compiler has set aside or set up like a couple of like keyword like triggers for like anything to do with your creator or anything like that. Like
Oh yeah.
so that pops up and you're kind of made aware of it automatically. Um, so there is a news report. It's a kind of a breaking news thing, and um, like a field reporter is standing in front of a building that says there's a sign that says "Hark" with an exclamation point, like like "Hark the Herald Angels Sing." Hark Media and Advertising. Um, and the building, like a number of windows have been broken out of the building. Like there's clearly like plumes of dust and whatnot that are kind of billowing out. A little bit of smoke. There are people in the background that are like helping people who've been injured like away from the building towards ambulances and things like that. And the reporter's like, this is Kent Broadway with Portland Channel 7 News. I come to you from on location at Hark Media and Advertising, where mere minutes ago, a band of robotic goons, it seems, attacked the advertising agency, and injuries are minimal. No casualties have been reported, or no fatalities have been reported, but a number of minor injuries amongst the employees that were located on site. Police are on site investigating. Eyewitness reports indicate that the robotic attackers were those known as Calamibots, the minions of Dr. Calamitous. More details will be provided as they become available. Stay tuned for any breaking updates. Back to you, Barbara, and it like cuts back to the people in studio.
Okay. Yeah, that's so since it's a normal day, I'm kind of imagining that compiler's probably like out at the dump sifting through stuff to see if it can find anything salvageable when this happens. And
Okay.
as a start, I think it basically gets so surprised by this it just falls down a pile of trash. But
Okay.
Yeah, this advertising agency, Hark. Do I know anything about it? Is this something that I would remember targeting in the past?
No, actually, not anything that you in particular have any memories of post creation or prior to.
Okay. Hmm.
You would know that it seems a particularly odd choice of targets for Professor Calamitous.
Yeah, I think I want to know a lot more about what's going on here. I think Compiler is very interested in going to investigate, but it also doesn't want to do that right now because the cops are there. So maybe give it a few hours after dark. Just s- head
Okay.
over there and see if there's anything to be found.
Sure. Yeah. How long after dark?
Um, well, Compiler does fly. It's got like rockets built into it, but I imagine it being a pretty clunky kind of flight because it's a fairly low level ability.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it would need to be pretty dark because otherwise people would very much see this box robot just sort of hovering through the city.
A much less.
Oh, it's very not graceful at all.
Yeah, I was gonna say a much less graceful Iron Man. Okay.
Sort of on par with like the original Iron Man suits, the
Yeah, exactly. Like one of his first ones. It's
yeah, with
all
all the
like chrome
transistors.
steel and yeah, exactly. Okay. So you you arrive well enough after nightfall that like it's dark. And in a city like Portland, there's a fair amount of light pollution. You can kind of fly without it drawing too much attention. And I mean, superheroes and the like are common enough in the world that someone might kind of like glance up and be like, "Oh, that's not a jet. Weird." But otherwise, they'll probably just attribute it to like a jet or something like that. So, um, are you going to land at the roof of the building, at the base of the building? How are you approaching?
Uh, when it was on the news, the it got attacked. Was the front of the building still intact, or had it been blown out?
So it hadn't necessarily been blown out. The windows had all been shattered, and like the front door was like basically like ripped off the hinges. But otherwise, the facade of the building is more or less intact. Maybe some masonry is like cracked and stuff like that, but otherwise, it's
Okay.
okay.
Yeah, that seems probably like my best move then. His compiler's a big boy, and it's not gonna sneak through no vents.
Fair enough. Um, yeah, so the doors have been replaced with like some, you know, fairly slapdash like replacements, like a temporary stopgap measure until they can get people in to actually repair the doors. Um, there is like police tape across the windows on the first floor and everything like that. The second floors have all had like plywood, like the windows have all had plywood put up over them to cover up the ones that were broken. Um, like the especially for an advertising agency, it's probably not the best look, but it's better than just leaving it all completely open for whoever wants to wander in. So yeah, you know you show up at this building. Um, Trying to decide whether or not there would be a guard out front. Oh, you know what? We're gonna rely on the old card draw.
Hey,
So cards in on the deck all have auras, in addition to their values in their suits. So the plus sign is a positive aura, the minus sign is a negative aura, and the other option is a circle, which is a neutral aura. So I'm going to draw a card, and we're going to see what the aura is, and positive will be good for compiler, negative will be bad for compiler. Ah, look at that.
sounds good.
It is a positive card. So
Hey,
there is no guard out in front of the building. The doors are like the doors are not locked at this point in time. You can actually see that there are lights on in some of the offices, and there's people like as you land, you can see people kind of moving about and doing some work and stuff like that.
Goodness. Okay. I didn't expect there to still be people here.
It's not a lot. It's probably like 4 people in total. But I mean, it's a large enough advertising agency that they do business with people
Yeah.
in other countries and stuff like that. So
Oh, absolutely. That's just an unexpected development.
I'm
For some reason, this robot doesn't understand really that people have different schedules.
right. Well, because for compiler, there's no need to take a day off.
Exactly.
All
But
right,
even beyond that, like, I think Calamitous is nocturnal half the time anyway, so
that's true. But if he's anything like half the nerds I know, that's the case. So
yeah, that's okay. I guess if the doors are open, then it's going to go in as quietly as it can and just see if it can follow that trail of destruction, because it wants to know why they were here. So,
okay. So there was a reception desk in the main lobby that has been mostly kind of smashed. Um, there's still a little bit of like debris around, but it's mostly been kind of like swept up and into piles and things like that. Just enough that people can kind of like walk through the lobby. Um, and there's an elevator that is there's like a hastily printed sign that says, you know, um, please only use elevators if absolutely necessary. Otherwise, take the stairs. And it kind of points at a door down the hall just a little bit.
okay. Yeah, I don't think compiler would be willing to risk the elevator because it weighs like 600, 700 pounds.
That's
So
true.
if it's already damaged, then we don't want to. That would draw a lot of attention.
It would. Okay, so I mean, you go to the stairs, and one of the elevator doors is like smashed in, so the doors are closed, but they're badly dented. So that elevator is also clearly out of service. When you get to these stairs, you can tell that like some sort of robotic entity, clomped up the stairs because some of the like concrete is like it's like cracked and stuff like that. This building is like 7 floors. How high do you want to go?
Well, if there's evidence on the stairs of something climbing, I think I would probably try to follow that trail. Because I'm not interested in the building itself. I don't really care about the ad agency. I just want to know what was being done here. So I just want to follow the signs of the attack, basically.
Okay. It looks like so there are probably multiple Calamibots that went up the stairs. One of which, like, or at least one of which, like, kind of busted through the door leading onto the second floor, continued up to the third floor, and so they basically like went up as a group, and one or two of them split off onto each floor. Um, if you continue following the destruction up, that kind of ends at the fifth floor, where there is actually a keypad door that requires you to enter in an access code to get above that to the sixth and the seventh floors.
Oh, Well, I don't know what that keypad would be, so I guess. Can I use the computer link power to try and hack this thing?
Absolutely. So if what you want to do, we got our first action attempt of this issue. Basically, what you're going to do is you're going to play one of your cards and add that value to your computer link power of your intensity of 5. If you play the intellect card, you get boost, so you get to play another card off the top of the deck, and you get to add it.
Well, I don't know if I want to play that big card this early, but also with an intensity of 5, I don't think the other cards would do me much good. So yeah, let's go ahead and drop that 8.
Okay. Go ahead and play your other card from the top of the deck, and we'll see what you get.
That
And
Be
you
a
have the
4.
computer's skill. Yes, you do. Okay. Hello, kitty. All right,
Where's
so
it took her this long?
that is an 8 plus 5 is 13 plus 4 is 17 with the computer skill. Okay. Yeah, you. I'm going to set these over here as the discard so that they are clearly distinct from the cards that you still have in your hand. Go ahead and draw your card back to replace the 8 that you played. Ooh, Doom card. Excellent. Okay, so you how do you like link up with computers? Do you kind of just do it Bluetooth like wireless, or do you have like little wires that extend out and like worm their way into the control panel?
Oh yeah, it's extremely a wire thing.
Okay.
If there's any kind of a port on this, I'm imagining almost using the transmutation to like 3D print an access plug in the moment to.
Okay. Um, yeah. So it's one of those keypads. You can punch the code into, but it also obviously is going to have like a little spot where you can like theoretically like open the panel if you needed to, if you have the right kind of key.
Yeah, for sure.
And so you're able to like the cables or the wires, they extend up there and kind of interface with the thing, and it takes us like just a second, and then like four of the buttons light up, and the door clicks.
Nice.
Um,
Okay.
in case you want it for future reference, it is 3690.
Yeah. But it's good to know in case I ever need to break into this building again.
Exactly. Um, so yeah, you managed to get into the sixth floor.
All right.
It looks like the Calamibots were not able to get past this point, by the way.
Oh. Interesting.
It seems like they may have tried, but the door itself was pretty sturdy.
Was there on the news? Was there any footage of them leaving? Were they carrying stuff? Did it look like they'd robbed it, or?
No, actually, so you waited until later in the evening, so there would have been an update to the story, indicating that the Calamibots showed up and basically kind of started trashing the publicly available floors, trying to intimidate someone into letting them up onto the sixth floor, which apparently like that's really restricted access, so very few of the employees actually had the ability to open the door. And they were there for maybe about 15 minutes and then they left kind of empty-handed.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Um, yeah, in that case, I'll head out and explore this floor. I want to make sure the door locks behind me, just in case I'm being followed, but...
Okay. Yeah, you pull the door firmly, it clicks, and you hear the keypad like beep to indicate that it's that entrance, or that instance of the code being plugged in has ended, and the door is secure again. Now that you're on the other side of this door, this is really oddly very reminiscent of some of the spaces that Professor Calamitous had in his like lair. It's very like almost kind of sterile, like very much it reminds you of a cross between like a surgical theater and a server room. And you're in basically a corridor that leads off, like you're at the corner of the building, and so it leads off in two directions, and you can see doors down both hallways.
Okay. Um, am I at the front corner of the building?
Um, yeah, like the front. If you were looking at the front entrance of the building, you'd be at the front right.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna take the hallway that leads towards the back, because I figure if they've
Okay,
got anything special in here, it wouldn't be just, like, by the front windows, so...
fair enough.
And, yeah, see if anything sticks out going that way.
Okay. Um, you are heading down that hallway, and you let's see here. What is willpower's pretty good. Okay. So you head down the hallway, and a couple of the doors are open, and it looks like the offices, like these are offices that have been very hastily like emptied out. Like there are still like staplers and like, you know, some binders that have like a couple pieces of paper in there that are, you know, sort of like cover pages or whatever. But it looks like all the rest of the pages were taken out and shredded. Like there's little like remnants of like shredded documents and stuff like that kind of littering the floor. Not enough to put together to make a cohesive document, but
okay. I guess would it be worth searching these offices? I mean, if there's papers lying around, maybe anything could be a clue.
yeah, you can give me. What would be the best skill for this? I want to say investigation is kind of intellect based, which would be good for you. But let me.
It's definitely not something I have any experience with, so feel free to make it one of my worst gets.
So observation and law enforcement. Yeah, we're gonna make this a willpower thing.
Okay.
So I would need a willpower action from you, please.
Sure thing.
Now, something to keep in mind is that there is a special thing you can do called a Hail Mary. So if you're like, hey, none of my cards are very good, and I don't think I've got a high enough card to help me succeed, you can call a Hail Mary, and you just play the top card of the deck as if you're playing the card from your hand. It might be good, it might be bad, and you can only do that once per session per point of edge that you have. So.
Okay, makes sense. I guess something that I forgot to ask when we were going over stuff. If I use a Doom card for an action, does that have any effect on the action, or is it...
No, it doesn't have any effect on the immediate action other than Doom cards will never trigger a boost.
Okay.
But if you play a Doom card at any point, I get to draw a card from my physical copy of the deck, and I get to set that aside and use that for whatever story-related reason I want, which means maybe the villain hits you a little bit harder, or maybe the villain gets away, or whatever the case may be.
Interesting. Yeah, I like the sound of that. Let's go ahead and put that down and make that an 11 on the check.
An 11 on check. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and set that aside. Ooh, interesting. All right, you can go ahead and discard that card, and then you can draw to replace it. With an 11, you know, you're kind of... That's funny, because that's the exact card I just drew from my deck. And considering there's only one of each card in the deck, that's like a 1 in 100 chance. Actually, less than that. But anyways, so... Yeah, you're kind of like poking around in a couple of the offices. You don't really find anything in the first one, so you move on to the second one. And as you are, as you're kind of like poking around and searching, you hear the sound of someone walking down the hall in your direction. Like high heels on a linoleum floor. Like it's very distinct.
Okay. You said there was kind of random office supply stuff scattered around this room. Would there be just like a clipboard in here somewhere?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, yeah. In that case, I think I'm going to grab the clipboard and step into the hallway, because I don't do stealth, so if I hide, she's going to find me. My best bet here is to try and play this off like it's like I'm supposed to be here.
Okay, all right, that's fair. You step out into the hallway with a clipboard in, like, kind of cradled in against your elbow, and you see a lady who's probably around 30. She's got short black hair, and she's wearing a lab coat over like a fairly like standard professional attire.
Yeah.
Um, and she kind of stops when she sees you, and okay. Um, she stops, like, kind of stops cold when she sees you, and her eye, you can see her eyes go wide when she recognizes that you are a robot, uh, much like the robots that attacked earlier today, although you look very different. Um, and she kind of takes a couple of steps back, and she starts reaching for the fire alarm that's on the wall.
I think the faceplate on compiler changes to be just like a big Unicode colon in parentheses smiley face, and
Is
it
it
goes.
sideways or is it oriented
No,
correctly?
it's
Okay, all
oriented
right, okay, all
correctly
right.
for sure.
Just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, no, no. Yeah, and it goes, good evening. I'm sorry to disturb you. You wouldn't have any information about the attack today, would you? I'm here investigating on behalf of the Coalition for Sentience Rights. I don't know if that's a real thing, but compiler's pretending it is in the moment.
Okay, give me. So convincing people and whatnot is a willpower thing. So I'm gonna need another willpower action from you, please.
Okay.
Another thing you can do is something called pushing. So you can push once per story for free. Basically, you take one of the cards in your hand and you add that to whatever your stat is before you play any cards. You don't redraw the card you used to push, so basically you kind of take damage in order to boost whatever it is you're trying to do.
Interesting. Okay.
And you can push and then do a Hail Mary if you want. So just so you know that those are options.
Um, yeah, that sounds like a very good option, because this is where it all breaks bad. So I will push by dropping this 5,
Okay.
and then we're gonna Hail Mary this and see what happens.
All right. Oh,
All right.
so you get to play another card and add it to that because that was a willpower card. So you're doing a willpower action.
Okay.
You get the boost, and you get another one because that was another willpower card.
Oh, this should not be working.
Oh wow! And then the 9 of Doom. So I'm gonna go ahead and draw another card for myself. I'm gonna just set that right there and hang on to it. Okay, so that is
Count
ridiculous.
34 total.
Yeah, 7, 16, 22. Yep, that is a 34. So just for reference, the difficulty ladder in this game is in increments of 4. 0 is automatic, 4 is easy, 8 is average, 12 is considered challenging. It goes all the way up to 40, which is considered impossible. So on a scale of 0 to 40, you got a 34.
Okay.
You succeeded spectacularly well, and especially because of the cover story you came up with, which I absolutely love. Let's see here. Okay, yeah. She stops before she grabs the fire alarm, and she kind of gives you a look, and then says, "Oh well, in that case, I think we should step into my office to chat." And she directs you towards the closest office.
Would be my pleasure. Thank you for your hospitality.
Go ahead and draw. Oh wait, you pushed, so don't draw that
Yeah, I
card
sure
back yet.
did.
Okay. Yeah. So she waits for you to go in, and she enters the office and closes the door. And she says, "You said the Coalition for Artificial Intelligence Rights."
We use sentience rights. We feel it's more inclusive, but yes, that's effectively what it is. We have reason to believe that the Calamabots may be sentient creatures forced to do, well, the bidding of Professor Calamitous, and was hoping we could find more information.
She still seems vaguely skeptical, but she says, "I can assure you that the Calamabots themselves are not sentient, based on what little, well, what little information we have about them. But I happen to know that there was such a being here not long ago."
I think just for the briefest of moments, the faceplate turns to just like an actual question mark, not an emote or anything, before going back to that sort of colon and parentheses smile. And was this entity of Alt in the attack? That would be considerably more concerning.
No, I think it was the purpose of the attack, though. Um, I I really shouldn't be providing you too much information here. That could cause problems for me. How about this? She takes a piece of paper and she takes a pen out of her pocket and she kind of jots down an address, and she folds the piece of paper and hands it to you. She says, "Meet me here. It's a small park. It's usually fairly uh, fairly quiet at night, so we should be able to meet there and shouldn't be any issues."
Understandable. Your assistance is appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah, just leave quietly, okay? It's better if people don't know that you were here.
I will do my best.
She says, "I'll meet you in 2 hours." And she opens the door and she walks out.
All right. Gonna give her a moment to walk away and then head back out the way I came in. This seems like the most promising lead I'm gonna get here, unless I go for the servers, and that seems like a bad idea. So,
I mean, it is an option if you wanted to try it. All right. Are you going to do anything in the intervening 2 hours other than make your way out of the building?
I guess would there be some businesses have like an employee registry, that sort of thing? Would there be anything like that that I'd be able to find on the lower floors on my way out?
You would have to they don't. You've seen Die Hard,
Yeah, yeah.
so that part where he's talking to Hans Gruber and like there's the list of like all the different employees like and their
Hmm.
office numbers.
That's
There's nothing
exactly
like
what I'm
that.
thinking of. Okay.
You would have to find it either like a printout or you'd have to find it on the computer.
Okay, fair enough. Um, when I was outside the building, you said there were lights on some floors, people working.
Mm-hmm.
Were there any that were completely dark?
The seventh floor was completely dark, and let's say the fourth floor was completely dark.
Okay. Yeah, I'll stop off on the fourth floor, see if I can maybe dig that out of one of the computers there.
Okay.
I want as much information about this person as possible. If this is a trap, I need to know.
Okay. Uh, she didn't give you her name, and she wasn't wearing a name badge.
No, no, that's definitely a problem.
I mean, but if you can get into the system and go to like HR files or something like personnel files, maybe you'd be able to find her by using it, by just recognizing her face.
That's the hope.
Okay. So you are able to find a computer in one of the offices, and you're able to get into the computer itself very easily. Uh, but like most companies, there's different levels of access, and getting into anything particularly sensitive and whatnot requires a greater level of access or clearance. So I will need an intellect action in order to get into the computer. like not to get into the computer, but to get
Okay.
further in. However, if you wanted to, you can just find an employee directory, just a list of people, their extensions, email addresses, and office numbers. Um, but that doesn't necessarily help you with this.
Yeah, that's because she did ask me to go to her office, but who knows if that actually was. It might have just been a random room since they were all cleared out.
Yeah, yeah. None of the
Okay.
offices had name placards either.
Yeah, then we'll go ahead and do that action. And I think what I can do here is the 14.
Okay, 14 with the computer. Well, 14 with the computer skill and with. Whoops, that is not what I wanted to do. You can go away and with computer link. Okay. Put. Yeah, you're able to get in. Um, so actually, your total would be a 9 because you're
Oh,
using your
computer
computer
link.
link.
Okay.
But
Sorry, I
again, with
assumed
the
it would be an intelligence skill.
so the skill computers is based on intelligence, and it does modify this, but you're using the computer link power rather than your intellect.
Gotcha. Okay.
Um, in theory, you could use your intellect as well, but that is actually going to be less likely to succeed than computer link. Which, unless you're trying to gain access to like sentient machines or like really really high security machines, computer link kind of just lets you do it as long as you have access to the
Oh,
terminal. Um,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, so go ahead and discard that card and draw one to replace it.
What do you... This card file is just getting so messy. Mm, Oops. I have that too far down.
That's okay. And yeah, so you are able to get into the HR like personnel server, or files, and you very quickly kind of click through, kind of at the speed of a computer, like kind of processing like that's not her, that's not her, that's not her, that's not her, until you finally do find an entry for her, like a personal file. Her name is Linda Lee, Doctor of Robotics, and she's got a doctorate in software engineering as well. She works in the research and development department for Hark Media and Advertising. And she was working on a project called Project Facelift.
Hmm. Interesting.
Uh, most of the details of which are like redacted, basically. Like
Okay.
there are some like if you do any searching for that term, you find like some general budget line items and stuff like that for it. You find some references to like a couple of email chains, um, but no details about what it is.
Huh. Very strange. Um, you said I had found her like personnel files. Would there
Mm-hmm.
be anything on record, any incidents, any disciplining, anything like that, or is she just the model employee?
So there were a couple of not necessarily disciplinary actions, but like there are a couple of comments listed, basically like um, along the lines of um, she raised concerns about like ethical, um, you know the ethical boundaries involved in the project. She was corrected, on this date, and then like a few months later, there's kind of like a similar thing, and there's a comment from like a higher level administrator that's like, if this continues, we're gonna have to remove her from the project, stuff like that. But it's not like that she did anything necessarily wrong. It was just like she was
Right.
she was definitely kind of being a squeaky wheel, but nothing that was like egregious.
Okay, yeah, that's great to know though, because if it was going to be a trap, it would be a lot more likely to be a trap if she wasn't already kind of doing this stuff.
You have a companion.
Yeah, this is Ziggy. She likes to come and explore what's going on when I sit in front of the computer, but she hates looking at the camera.
That's adorable. Um, I've had to block, or not block, but close off the door down into the basement where my office is, because otherwise my cats. It's an old house, and so I mean you can see kind of like the wood paneling and stuff like
Yeah,
that, and
absolutely. It's beautiful.
it's a great place. Just on the other side of this wall is a small galley kitchen, like like you would find on like a ship or something like that.
Yeah.
It's got like industrial like refrigerators like down along the bottom cabinets and stuff like that. It's wild, um, but we had that door open at first, and one of my cats found that there was a gap in one of the cupboards that he could use to crawl up into the bowels of the house.
Oh no.
And he could basically crawl around between the floors of the house and everything like that. And we were like, well, we don't want him to do that again because we don't want him to get hurt and stuck in there. So we had to close that off. But then, kind of a similar situation on the other side of the basement where it's our laundry room. So we just were like, you know what? Just to make sure that no cats sneak in there, we're going to have a two-door system. One that leads into the basement itself, and then one that leads into both of those spaces.
Yeah,
So,
very reasonable.
but I'm hoping that we'll be able to eventually let them back down here again, because one of my cats likes to sit on my shoulder while I'm doing stuff on the computer. So, and I miss my cats. Anyways, total detour. Cats are awesome. I love cats.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's what you find.
Okay.
Actually, you do find one thing that you do find is an email chain that was sent out today, after, like timestamped after the attack, and it's sent out by like an executive level employee, who basically sends out an email and says like, you know. All reference or all materials related to Project Facelift should either be destroyed or transferred immediately to like the central office. It's
Okay. So this place, this advertising company, are the building we're in like an outbuilding? Is it a franchise?
so it's basically like the local building for Portland.
Okay.
They have a headquarters that is located. Where would this be located? Their headquarters is probably located in like Chicago.
Okay. Sure thing.
So
Yeah, just that's my first instinct when it says central office, but Chicago's a big drive. I think I'm gonna ping on the radar if I try to fly that far.
probably, yeah.
But okay, yeah. I guess armed with this information, I'll head out to start staking out this park, because I feel good about this meeting now. I have a little more information, and all I can do is watch and wait.
Okay. So it's a new scene, so you can go ahead and draw that missing card back.
Oh,
You still won't be able to push. Now, you can't push again this story unless you do a willpower action to kind of like, recharge your resolve and get and kind of get that ability back. That gets every time you do it, it gets harder and harder, to indicate that you can't like keep pushing yourself all the time. So
yeah.
so yeah. Okay. So that card is low intensity, but it's a willpower card, which if you have to do another willpower action, gives you a boost.
Yeah.
In addition, that card is equal to or less than your edge score, which is 1 currently. Edge is a measure of your hero's experience, so it basically is reflected in mechanics by giving you more value for low value cards. So,
Oh,
like, sure, you could just play the 1 in order to get the boost, or what you can do is you can play it as an edge card. So you play that first, and then you play another card like normal. So the edge card is just an extra little oomph behind what you're trying to do. As your character becomes more experienced, that edge score goes up until you get to the point where you like all cards of like 3 or less you can play as edge
okay.
cards, and then you still get your normal card play at the end. Um, so it's just another way to kind of play some of those lower cards. Um, just FYI.
Yeah, sounds good.
But yeah, you get to the park. It is kind of in a residential neighborhood. Like there are a number of like apartment buildings and things like that. And this little park is kind of like nestled between a couple large apartment buildings. The park itself isn't very large. Like it's probably, it probably like the average size of like somebody's front yard in kind of a suburban neighborhood. But there are a couple of big trees, and there's a pair of swings and a slide, and a couple of benches. So it's nice enough for this area to go out and like sit in some green space.
Okay, well, that removes a lot of concerns. It's much harder to put together a trap in an area this small.
That's true.
Um,
Yes.
I guess until she gets here, Compiler will just find a place to stand and pretend it's like a modern art sculpture.
He like
Exactly, yeah.
okay. Um, yeah, I mean, very punctually, like almost 2 hours to the minute of when you talk to her. She, uh, Dr. Lee comes walking down the sidewalk towards the park, and she kind of pauses when she sees you, like posed, um, and she does like a kind of a look up and down the street type of thing, as if like am I being punked right now? But then she kind of shakes her head and she walks in and she goes to sit at the bench or on the bench that's nearby.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's just gonna give her like a quick semicolon wink face emoji and then head over. It's not gonna sit on the bench because it doesn't know how much weight this bench is rated for, but
Not that much.
it'll like kneel down in the grass behind it.
Okay. Um,
Apologies for the confusion. You seemed concerned about secrecy, so I felt it better to try and blend in a little.
you you may want to work on that a little. No offense.
I, yes, this is one of my many areas in which I do not excel.
She says, "Well, that might just not have been why you were built, and that's okay."
It definitely was not, no.
Why were you built? Who built you?
I, um, I would prefer, and it just gets all stuttery. It's confused. It doesn't know what to, it
She
doesn't
says,
want to talk about this, but it also doesn't know how to say that.
"It's okay. I'm not trying to upset you. I just you strike me as different from uh, uh, most mechanical sentient life. But we can discuss that another time, maybe. Um, my name's Linda, Dr. Linda Lee, and I think I know, I'm positive I know exactly why those robots earlier today attacked the ad agency. They were looking for access to the 6th floor, And the only thing there of any value was a project that I was working on. Advertising is big money. Hark has been working to develop a mutable artificial market testing device. It is a robot that was programmed and set up with the ability to blend in much more effectively than you are. It can alter its appearance to look human. It can make itself look male or female. It can make itself look hefty or skinny. It can make itself look black or white or Asian. And it is intended to essentially be used for social experimentation for the purpose of market research on different products.
I believe I understand why Professor Calamitous would be interested now. That would be a devastating thing if his Calamibots could do that.
I agree. It's a very, very difficult process. It's very proprietary, obviously being kept under lock and key. I was brought onto the project to assist with some of the programming and some of the chassis design. It really is quite revolutionary. Use of nanobots and micro projectors to alter lighting and things like that on the surface of its skin.
I think Compiler just has this momentary reaction where it doesn't really want to, but it just sort of makes this like scoffing noise as its face changes, and then it's back to normal. It's just because it has calamitous history. It's just really not interested in nanobots. That's too into new tech. It prefers like hard real technology, not
Analog.
exactly. Yeah,
None of this
analog digital
crap.
tech.
Yeah. She says, what they didn't seem to know is that the subject escaped a few days ago. How Calamitous even found out about it, I don't know. The whole thing was kept very secretive.
That would be a concern. Would, as secretive as it was, would there be anyone in your department who you would suspect of being willing to sell this technology to him?
And there are a few people on the team who are self-serving enough that might have done it. This was morally and ethically ambiguous. It attracted a number of very brilliant but very, well, bankrupt individuals.
That does sound like what happens a lot of times when artificial intelligence is involved.
I didn't realize exactly what the project entailed when I was brought on. Once I found out, well,
Hmm.
Hark executives were unwilling to hear my points on the matter.
Well, if I am completely honest, that really puts me in a strange position. If this project escaped on its own, I would not want it returned to captivity, but if Calamitous is looking for it, that's another concern entirely. I
Well,
suppose I need to figure out how he found out, yes?
that might be helpful. But the entire reason I was willing to meet with you is because, well, A, you didn't try to destroy the place in order to find what you were looking for, and B, there is no coalition for sentient intelligence rights, or whatever it was you called it, is there?
A coalition for sentience rights, yes.
Hmm. Well, regardless, the fact that that was the cover story you decided to go with was at least intriguing enough to give me pause.
I see.
I am not necessarily inclined to see facelift returned to the lab either. But there was always a concern that its programming, if tweaked or if it failed in the wrong way, could lead it to be dangerous.
I am quite familiar with that concern.
She says, so
Well,
one of Facelift's primary directives was to seek out different lived experiences. And there were some instances where, some of the later testing involved Facelift studying a subject and then impersonating that subject for a day in the office or on the street, whatever the case may be, to see how well it could pass as a particular individual. To better equip it to integrate into a test market. It expressed a great deal of interest in further exploring these lived experiences. Towards the end, before it escaped, it actually started proposing test parameters that involved it taking over a subject's life for an extended period of time.
would there be... You said before that it had studied specific people to try and duplicate them. Would there be information available on the people it had studied? A list of names? If it's interested in stepping into someone's life full time, it would make sense for it to be someone it already had information on.
I can get that list, yeah. It there is also a there is also the possibility of soliciting a ping response from it. It was one of the things that the team developed was that there was a particular frequency you could send out a signal on, and it would be compelled to respond in case we ever lost track of it for whatever reason. It's an old addition to the design, something that has been sort of phased out, but was never the hardware for it was never officially removed from the prototype.
The experience you have with it is a sentient creature. Did it ever mention this ping at all? Did it ever discuss that with anyone?
No, the only reason I know about it, I don't believe it is even consciously aware of the presence of this hardware within it. I was on one of the initial design teams that suggested this as a failsafe in case it altered its appearance and then went haywire and we needed to track it down.
I see.
The only thing is, it most likely would be alerted if you were to use this method of locating it, but it's quicker.
I believe that is worth pursuing then. I feel that I'm visually distinct enough that if it were alerted and saw me, it would likely know what was going on. Hopefully that would be enough of a basis for a conversation.
Hopefully. I'll still work on getting the list of names just in case this doesn't work out. As I said, it's a holdover from a previous design iteration, so there's a possibility it may not work, but
Indeed. And more to the point, if Calamitous is still looking for this prototype, that if he finds out about that functionality, he very well could use the same thing, so
that's
time
true.
is of the essence here.
Agreed. She stands up and goes to offer you a hand to shake, but she kind of hesitates, and in that moment you hear, actually, so we're behind the bench. So you're facing out towards the front of the park. You actually see a couple of Calamabots land in the street, like the pavement kind of cracks, and she jumps and kind of turns to look at them as they advance. You notice that the kind of shaking, reverberating sound is continuing, but it's no longer in time with your own heartbeat, and it feels more physical now because like the ground under your feet kind of trembles a little bit every time it happens.
Okay. Okay. Um, well, I've seen the labyrinth. I've got chalk because I just cleaned up a classroom. I'm gonna draw an arrow pointing which direction I'm going and start walking.
Okay. Um, you're not walking for very long when the sound, that trembling, that kind of booming sound, starts to get distinctly closer.
I'm
It's
gonna
coming
start
from
jogging.
behind you. Okay, fair enough.
Gonna start jogging. Something's coming. I'm gonna start jogging. Because
Okay,
if it's really big, I don't want to be in a tunnel when it comes through me.
probably a good point. Yes. All right. So you are you start to jog, and it starts sounding like louder and closer and faster, and you hear a. It's not distant or faint. It's pretty loud. You hear a bellow, very similar to the Tyrannosaurus Rex from Jurassic Park. Um,
I'm gonna run faster.
okay. Give me. Do you have running? No, you don't. But you do have. Okay. So, if you would like to try and outrun this thing, you can give me an agility action to do so.
Yeah, I think I'm going to.
Okay.
I'm definitely gonna try and outrun this thing.
And you're really putting really putting some serious effort behind it.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So that's a 9 of agility, so you play the top card of the deck to get a 4, so that's a 13, plus your agility of 9 is a 23. So, I am going to take a look at this thing's opposing score. So, we're going to use... So that doesn't get that. So that is a 4 plus the difficulty plus agility. Do I want to be mean?
You want to be mean.
I kind of do want to be mean. I'm gonna go ahead and play my my Doom card early. It is also an agility card, so I'm gonna go ahead and draw another one for him. Okay. You Yeah, you book it. You sprinting down down this tunnel, and it's weird because it feels like it has like the same general curve for what seems like an impossibly long time. You're pretty sure that it would loop back on itself at some point, which doesn't seem to make a lot of logical sense. You're not a runner, but you are getting a partial scholarship at the university for being involved on their acrobatics squad. So you are in very good shape, and you do some running to keep yourself lean. So this is not unfamiliar to you in the slightest. You go and discard those 2 cards and draw a card to replace that 9. So you are confident in your ability to get away from this thing, but it gains on you to the point where you kind of glance behind, like over your shoulder, and you see this very large. It's not quite serpentine head. It's more dragon-like than it is serpent-like. Actually, you know what? You've got the mythology skill, so I'm not even going to make you roll or like do an action for this. It kind of looks like depictions of like sea monsters that you would see on like old maps that sailors would draw and stuff like that.
Okay.
It's very reminiscent of that. Yeah, it is. It doesn't quite fill the tunnel, so you can tell that it's kind of doing a sideways sort of like slither motion.
Yeah.
In order to propel itself, and that's where the crashing is coming from. It's like the large parts of its muscular body like slamming against the sides of the tunnel. You do manage to kind of like burst out into a very large chamber. Like you get to a point where the tunnel suddenly kind of opens up. Well, I take it back. It kind of narrows very drastically all of a sudden, but on the other side of that, you can see that there is a large chamber. You're able to get through with no problem. This thing is not. This thing just crashes straight through it. Walls of, blow out. There's rubble everywhere, kind of raining down. And yeah, this thing is going to come after you. So we are going to do another narrator card. Okay. And I need to know what... Actually, hold on a second. Your intellect is higher. This thing is going to try and like wrap you up in its coils.
Okay.
So, what are
I'm
what active thing do you want to do to this? Like, are you going to attack it, or are you going to try to just escape?
I'm gonna pull out my staff and smack it.
Okay. I like it.
Just smack it upside the head with it because it comes towards me.
Perfect. I love the optimism. All right, so we'll go ahead and resolve your active action first. So go ahead and give this is going to be a strength action. Actually, yes, martial arts weapons is a strength skill. So go ahead and give me a strength action. Now, one thing I will point out is that one of the mechanics in the game is called pushing the limit. What that means is you can play any one card in your hand, sort of like an edge card. Like you play that card, and then you play your normal card, which will get the boost if it's the appropriate suit. But essentially, it increases your stat, your power, whatever it is, for that one action. It represents that that moment where the hero is like, oh, I've got to push just a little harder, to lift the mountain or whatever it happens to be. The drawback to that is that you basically don't redraw that card. It's sort of like taking damage in order to get this benefit. You can do that once per story for free. If you want to do that, if you want to push again, you have to do like a willpower action in order to kind of replenish your like resolve to do so.
Right.
So just FYI, that is an option.
Yeah, I'm thinking about that. I think let's do that.
Okay.
And I can also then play this which would let me draw, oh, lovely, another Doom card. But that adds on top of that with my 5 strength, gives me 18. The bow staff is a +1, and I have the martial arts weapons.
Okay. So in that case, that is going to be. I mean, he is not going to get out of the way of that. So that is going to be 5, 4. Yeah, he definitely doesn't get out of the way of that. You hit him. However, he. That is a very, very solid hit. Like that's the kind of thing that would lay out most tough guys, without a second thought. However, it kind of like bounces off the rubbery scaled hide of this creature. It doesn't even really seem to phase it.
Lovely.
So, go ahead and discard these 3 cards. You'll only draw 1 card back at the end of the round, but I still need you to make me. An agility action or a phasing action, whatever you prefer, to try to get away from this thing's coils.
Yeah. Let's do phasing.
Okay.
And I'll play that one because it's the higher points. That'll drop me at a 15.
Okay, so take that. Oh, interesting. All right, so you can go and discard that.
Oh, good lord. A lot of Doom cards coming out.
Yeah, lots of them, apparently. So that got you a 15?
That got me at 15. Yep.
Okay. So, yeah, as the thing, starts to wrap around you, you can tell that this thing is strong. Like, your power is still a little bit unfamiliar to you. You've got the uncontrolled limit, so sometimes it just happens when you don't want it to. In this particular case, it doesn't happen right away. Like you're kind of like trying to get it to work as the thing like darts down and spins around and starts to try to like enclose on you. Just at the last second though, you phase, and so like it sort of like coils up to the point where like it would be crushing you, if not for the fact that you are not physically tangible any longer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna run out towards an exit.
Okay. Yeah, you dart out. The serpent seems very confused, and sort of like rears itself up and goes to like follow after you. When I'm gonna go ahead and make use of the event on this narrator card. As it kind of like lunges at you, all of a sudden, ahead of you, in like through this opening that you're headed towards, which is on the other side of the chamber from where you came in, there's an old man who looks sort of like the classical depiction of like a Greek philosopher. He's got a long white beard and long white hair. He's got like a kind of a toga thing. He says something. You don't quite catch it, and all of a sudden, the serpent behind you is like kind of vanishes, and in its place, well, not completely in its place, but sort of in its place, is a guy. He is wearing sort of like a what is the Roman breastplate called?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's wearing something kind of like that, but it's kind of like scaled, in a sort of fish scaled more than like dragon scaled. But and he kind of like stumbles as he's not really expecting. He's still expecting to be a giant serpent, not a person. And he kind of like he stops chasing you at that point. Like he kind of picks himself up, and as you reach the exit, I imagine you kind of like glance back at him, and like the last panel there is going to be kind of a close up of his face, and he's saying, oh, "My emperor will be most interested in that one." And then like you guys, you get through the exit. The guy in the toga like kind of does like this kind of wiping motion, and the crystal around the opening kind of like forms up and encloses the gap. And he grabs you and set in a language you don't understand. He like grabs your hand and he kind of drags you off in a direction down this tunnel. Leads you like a crack in the crystal wall, and he kind of like squirms his way through and urges you to follow him. So I'm going to play the 2 Doom cards that I got. The first one is I'm going to do this to make life a little more difficult for everybody in the city. I'm going to play the Bigotry card. And the reason I'm playing the Bigotry card is because Brock Kentman, after the initial kind of enthusiasm of interviewing Amber, kind of turns the narrative to like, one has to wonder what Commander Blockade and his security team would have done to minimize the destruction in this particular encounter. It seems to me that a professional with military training and a great deal of experience in this sort of thing would have prevented a lot of the property damage, and kind of doesn't directly like badmouth Amber, but does kind of badmouth vigilantes in general. Like the superheroes as a general rule, and a number of the people like around are like, oh yeah, like my car is probably destroyed now. What am I gonna like? And so there's a general sense of like not being very happy with the way things ultimately panned out. Like they're happy to be alive, but yeah. So
okay.
And I'm just gonna make a quick note of the fact because that's a good detail to include in any other stories coming up. We got to keep a cohesive narrative here.
Absolutely. Meanwhile, Amber's sort of turned to Timmy going, I don't know, I thought she did really well, even though I don't know her and have never met her before. I thought she did fine.
Timmy is like, he's kind of distracted. He's like, yeah, it was great. She was great. He's like checking through the stuff in the van, making sure nothing was damaged, and he like looks at like the spot where you dug your fingers in and like kind of dented the roof of the van, and he's like, oh man, like the boss is gonna be pissed at me. Like I know he's gonna try to find a way to blame me for this, and like he's focused on other stuff. Eliza though, Eliza is watching you. And she kind of gives you a, look, but I'm going to play the Team Unity card. She doesn't say anything.
Okay.
So.
Yeah.
You're oblivious, so you probably think she totally bought it.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
But the viewers, our readers, would definitely notice that her expression is one of deep skepticism.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
No, to anyone paying the slightest bit of attention, there's no way her secret identity holds up.
Not at all.
There are just simply not that many, giant blonde women running around Portland.
Yeah. Honestly, if it weren't for the fact that Eliza is a very good journalist and very observant, she probably wouldn't have noticed with all of the commotion and everything like that. Nobody else did, including Brock, which says something about his journalistic ability. But that's beside the point. There were explosions and supervillains fighting superheroes.
Absolutely.
And like cars careening towards the edge of the bridge, and everybody was focused on other things. But Eliza's, she's
right there.
She's smarter than your average bear.
Hmm.
Yeah. What does
Well,
what does Amber do at the end of the like? What is? Now I need to figure out the name of the editor for this paper. um,
Ambrose Porter.
Jerry Gray.
Very great. Good. Perfect.
Uh, is hold on a second. So I will point out that it's Jerry Gerry Gray.
Oh, okay.
And
Of course.
and yeah, because it's got to be
Yeah.
most names in comic books are what's
Alliterative.
alliterative. Yeah, alliterative. I want to say onomatopoeic, but I knew that wasn't the right word. Also, it's a play on Perry White because it's Jerry Perry Gray
Nice.
instead of White. So
Yeah. No, Amber's last name is actually Anderson. So.
perfect, Amber Anderson. Yeah, so Jerry gives all of you the rest of the day off. Well, sort of. He basically tells Eliza that he expects her to write the story from home.
Right.
But otherwise, the day off to kind of like calm down from the rather
Right.
eventful ride home.